Right. Good morning, everyone. It's Wednesday, the 22nd of May, Parshas Baloscha. This week's Parsha is famous for many, many things. A couple of the interesting things in this week's Parsha is, first of all, it talks about the menorah. You know, the Beis Hamikdash had a, the Mishkan, also the Beis Hamikdash, but we're talking about the Mishkan had a menorah. Now, it's not so simple. Most people don't know this halacha, that you're not allowed to... You ever wonder why rich people, they own houses, you never see a house in the shape of the temple, of the Beis Hamikdash. That's not allowed. You're not allowed to duplicate, make anything which resembles what belongs to God, so to speak. There's an interesting Gemara in I don't remember. I think it's Rosh Hashanah, but I'm not 100% sure. It's a story with Rav Gamliel that in the olden times they used to set the month by the moon, and witnesses would come and explain to them what they saw, how they saw. So Rabbi Gamliel had pictures of the moon in various stages, and he used to ask the witnesses, did it look like this, did it look like this? And the Gemara asks the question, how can he do that? You're not allowed to make a picture of the moon. Now, did you know that?
No.
You didn't know that. Dov knew it, but you didn't know it.
No, I didn't know it either.
You didn't know it. Well,
even Dodi didn't know.
I always say that if you buy anything, it comes with an instruction manual. Life has an instruction manual, it has the Torah. So, if you learned the Torah, you would know that. Now, you wouldn't know it if you just read it like you were reading Siddur, but if you understood what it meant, like I always say that most people don't know the Ten Commandments. There's 99% of the people on the planet don't know the Ten Commandments. Because even if they think they know it, they don't know it. Like, for example, it says in the Torah, thou shalt not steal. So people think the Ten Commandments means you can't go and steal somebody's car, steal somebody's money. That's not what it means. I've already said it a couple of times, what it means. It means you can't kidnap somebody.
Can't even steal his das.
Knevus das, but I'm talking about the ones which are in the Ten Commandments. If you steal money from somebody, or you steal somebody's das, which is not allowed to, it's not allowed to, but the punishment is not death. But all the punishments for the ones in the Ten Commandments, it's death. And thou shalt not steal, which is... thou shalt not steal, which is in the Ten Commandments, is talking about not kidnapping somebody. You kidnap somebody, you hold them out for ransom, whatever it is, that's punishable by death. Now, right after the Ten Commandments, there is a pasuk in the Torah, right after Hashem in Parshas Yisro, right after the Torah was given, it says, Vayomer Hashem al Moshe, Hashem said to Moshe, so you should speak to the Bnei Yisrael. You all saw, 3 million people were there when it happened, that I, Hashem, spoke to you from the heavens. And what's the next sentence that it says afterwards? Lo sasun iti Elohei chesed Elohei zov lo sas lachem. So if you read it, it says, you shall not make images with me. Make images of gods, silver gods, gold gods. You shall not do this for yourself. So there's an extra word here. It says, you shall not make with me. What does it mean, with me? Now, you can read this 1,000 times, and I've read it, not 1,000, but I've read it at least once.
Because everything you do, he's doing.
So Rashi says, you have to look at Rashi. Without Rashi, we're lost. Rashi says, lo sasun iti. What does that mean? It means, lo sasun demush Shemoshi Hamashamshim Lifnei Bamorim. Do not make anything that serves for me in the heavens. Meaning the sun, the moon, the stars, the constellations. You can't duplicate those things. So the Gemara says, so how did the Rav Gamliel show these pictures of the moon? So I'm not going to get into the whole issue of that, but certainly you cannot make those things. The Gemara says that those things you're allowed to do because it's talking about something else, but those kalim, those vessels that were in the Beis Hamikdash, in the Mishkan, that certainly you can do. You can't do the shulchan. There was a table. There was a menorah, you can't duplicate those. Now, let's turn around, everybody, and let's look what's over there. What's a menorah? Okay? Now, why are we allowed to do that? Anybody have an answer?
Makom Kodesh.
Specifically in the Makom Kodesh, you can't duplicate. Hashem says not to do something.
It's not like what they had in Mishkan.
So what's different between this one and the one in the Mishkan?
They had a step.
No, forget about the steps. What's different about that menorah?
Doesn't have the for a light.
You're not looking at it. Maybe you would know.
For oil.
The amount of candles.
That's right. The ones in the Torah had how many? 7. 3 on each side, and they were tilting into the one in the middle. This one doesn't have one in the middle. It has a Magen David in the middle. Okay? So the halacha is that you're allowed to make a menorah if it has 6 or 8, but you can't do 7. Now what about Hanukkah?
8.
How many do we have? 8. That you're allowed to do. Because that was not in the Mishkan. The Hanukkah candles, we light 8 for all the nights of Hanukkah, but that number was never in the Beis Hamikdash. Now,
so really, what you're saying in those that painter that they draw moon and these pictures.
Okay, so that they say you're allowed to do because you cannot really duplicate. You don't even know what it is. You know, we're just imagining what it is. But you're not allowed to make. And by the way, you're not allowed to make a menorah, even though the one in the Torah it's talking about, you made it out of what? What kind of metal?
Gold.
Gold. Or you're allowed to make it out of brass, out of metal, out of wood, you can't do it. Because what some people don't know, and I didn't know until recently, is that even though it's out of gold, in the first Beis Hamikdash it was out of gold. And then when the second Beis Hamikdash came up, was built, they actually first made it out of another metal, and then they made it actually out of wood, and then they finally made it out of gold. So we actually had the first Beis Hamikdash gold, the second Beis Hamikdash gold, and we also had 2 other ones, wood and metal. So there was a total of 4. And there is a sign of it in this week's Parsha. If you open up, open up to page 774 for a second. Again, you can read this 1,000 times and never realize this.
That's why we have you, Mendy.
Well, I didn't realize it either until somebody told me or I learned it. Nothing I say is really on my own unless I specifically say it's my own. Otherwise, it's not my own. Let's look from the beginning of the Parsha, okay? V'daber Hashem el Moshe. You're on 774, everybody? V'daber Hashem el Moshe Leimor. Daber laharm v'marta leim balos chesaneres el mul pnei hamenorah. You see that word? Okay, that's 1. Then skip 1 line. The last word on the next line, it says again,
Menorah.
Hamenorah. Skip 2 more lines. The first word is again Hamenorah.
3 times menorah.
Wait a second. Skip 2 more lines. The first word on the line is Hamenorah. So there are 4 times it says the word menorah. But what's interesting about these 4? They're not all the same. It says Hamenorah 4 times, but it's not all the same. 2 of them is with a vav. You notice? The first 2 is spelled with a vav. The next 2 is spelled without a vav.
That's correct.
You see it? You would have noticed that immediately.
Ever.
Okay? So this shows that only 2 of them were full. That means it was completely the way Hashem wanted it with gold. 2 of them was missing something. It's missing a vav, but it's missing that it wasn't made out of gold.
They made wood or something.
Wood and metal. Okay.
So that's what the vav mean?
No, but it just goes to show that it wasn't 100% complete. Okay? And like the one in the Mishkan.
They were written before even the first Beis Hamikdash, so they're predicting the future.
Right, predicting the future.
Yeah, but they say anything about the third Beis Hamikdash.
Good question. If Alan Senecal was here, he would tell you that we already had the third Beis Hamikdash. Get into that discussion with him one time. He'll be very passionate about it.
They tore down Ezra's and they built a new.
He has a whole thing, and he has proof, and he has papers on this. And I actually believe that he's the Mashiach.
He probably believes it too. There's movie in the world.
And the reason, by the way, just a general thing that the candles in the menorah, there are 7. There's 3 on each side are facing the middle one, because it's just in life, it's just a general lesson that to be extreme is not the way to be. You should always
Bend down.
You should always take the middle road, and I also say that Hashem likes it when we're in the middle. Of course, we have big tzaddikim who are extreme and do all kinds of things, but that's not for the general public. And the same thing, of course, not to be religious at all and just to be a bad person in general is not good. The best thing is to be in the middle, and it says I think in Parshas Tetzaveh, it says, "V'osi li migdash v'shechanti b'sochem," and I will rest in you. So I always say, this is my own thing, b'sochem. You take sochem. What's the middle of sochem?
Wow.
And the middle, you have a sof and a mem on each side, and in the middle you have vav and a chof, which is 26, which is Hashem's name. So Hashem is in the middle when we like to take the middle road. Okay, let's move on. So that's one thing that the Parsha speaks about. I only have a few minutes, so let me skip over. Something else very interesting. Let's turn to page 776. And let's learn verse 19, which starts with the word va'etna. Everybody has it?
Yes, I have it.
Everybody has that word?
Levim.
Va'etna salavim. You got it? Tad. Can you count till 19?
Yutet. Yes.
Okay. Now let's read that pasuk and let's see if somebody noticed something interesting. Va'etna salavim. Forget about the meaning of the words. I'm just going to read it. Forget about the meanings. Va'etna salavim nesunim lahar nelvonov metoch b'nei Yisrael lavo des avodas b'nei Yisrael ba'oel moed v'lachaper al b'nei Yisrael v'lo yeh b'nei Yisrael negev b'geshes b'nei Yisrael el HaKodesh. Anybody notice something interesting?
First of all, Netunim, it has been given.
No, even if you don't know this meaning of a word, you notice something interesting. Even if you're Chinese, but you know how to read the Hebrew word. Okay, so I can't waste too much time on this. It's the word B'nai Yisrael is 5 times in this pasuk. In fact, if you take a look at from the beginning of the parsha until now, it's unbelievable. Maybe more than any place else in the Torah, the word B'nai Yisrael, almost in every pasuk is the word B'nai Yisrael, but specifically in this pasuk, B'nai Yisrael is 5 times. So, again, it's something that you don't notice it, but you know. And Rashi comments on this, and Rashi says that the reason it's 5 times because Hashem wants to show how much He loves us. That there is a saying, Yisrael v'Raisa kutshabarichu chadu. The Jews, the Torah, and Hashem is all one. So Hashem considers the Jews like the Torah itself, and the Torah has 5 books. So that's why Hashem put in 5 times the word B'nai Yisrael over here. Now let's see who can come up. Where in davening, every single day, 365 days a year, is there a pasuk that we say B'nai Yisrael, we say the word Yisrael, not B'nai Yisrael, but Yisrael 5 times, in that same pasuk. So we say this every day, or we should be saying it every day, and we're going to say it today, and I'll tell you quickly because we're going to have to start davening soon.
Which service is it? Only in Shachris, or is it?
It's in Shachris, and I'll give you a hint. It's after Shema and before Shemona Esrei. So I'll pause 10 seconds. If anybody's watching this YouTube, they can think about it. You ready? Sur Yisrael. Sur Yisrael. Kumu be'ezras Yisrael. Uvdechen amecha Yehuda v'Yisrael. Go aleinu Hashem tzvoi shemai kadosh Yisrael. Baruch ato Hashem. Go al Yisrael. 5 times. So before we daven to Hashem, before we Shemoneh Esrei, which is the main part of davening, we again remind Hashem who we are, we Yisrael, 5 times, that Hashem should accept our prayers. They don't believe me that it's there. That's good. No, I'm a proponent of checking what a speaker speaks about. Don't trust him. Don't trust him on anything. Don't trust him on gematrias. Don't trust him on anything he says.
We don't say.
Yeah, we're talking about Jews. Yeah. All right. So you don't say it. So
whom you think was Moshe Rabbeinu? Ashkenazi from Germany?
Good morning. So I'm told now the Sephardim don't say it. I think, in fact, Chabad doesn't say it either.
It's not in here.
Chabad is not in there. Okay. So here's a reason why you should say it, even though you're Chabad, because it's a beautiful prayer. Now I just want to say one more thing, and then we're going to stop. Unless somebody starts davening, I'll have to stop. There is the other thing, we can speak forever about this, but this week's parsha talks about something where it may be one of the few places in life, as far as religious halachas and everything, that you get a second chance. And where does the Hashem give you a second chance? You got to do this. Oh, this 613 commandments. You got to do this. You can't do this. Where does Hashem say, you know what? If you messed up, I'll give you a second chance. It's talking about Pesach Sheni. In this week's parsha, that if you couldn't do it, if you were defiled, you were tameh, or you were far away, you were busy, you were, God forbid, in the hospital, getting your face cut up.
Yesterday I spoke to you about.
By the way,
why we don't say
tashlumin. Right. So that's another thing, but that's not actually. You're right. That's one of the things. So, but what's fascinating is that it says in the Torah that beginning with Shlishi, Hashem says that that year, the second year when they came out of Mitzrayim, that we did the Korban Pesach b'mo'ado, in its time. And then, right afterwards, it says that people came and asked Moshe and Aharon, what happens if we couldn't be there? So what does Rashi say? Rashi says they came to Moshe and Aharon. Where was Moshe and Aharon? Rashi says they were learning in yeshiva. Shneim Yoshim bebeis hamedrash. They were both sitting and learning in beis medrash. Now picture this: it's Erev Pesach, okay, and you have to you have to do the Korban Pesach. Now, how many Korban Pesachs were they had to do the second year when they came out of Mitzrayim? How many? There were approximately. There were 600,000 Jews between 20 and 60, talking about their wives and their children, and everybody included. We're talking about tens of million people, maybe. So I don't know where I heard this number, that approximately 700,000 animals had to be slaughtered that day. Had to be that day, and had to be in the afternoon. So you had a window of maybe, I don't know, when Yom Tov started in the Midbar at that time, but let's say it started at 6 o'clock, and let's say the afternoon was at noon, so you're talking about 6 hours, 700,000 animals had to be slaughtered. Now, how many people knew how to slaughter, knew the law? How many Kahanim were there?
20,000?
3. At that time, there was only 3. Until Aaron and his children were alive, they were the only ones. Aaron, and he had 4 kids, but 2 of them unfortunately died. So there was only Elazar v'Somer. Nadav and Avihu died. So 3 Kahanim had to do 700,000 korbanos. And what were they doing? They couldn't start until 12, so you would think they would figure out a system, how to do this so quickly. They sat in Beis Medrash and they learned. Because when it's time to learn, it's time to learn. And right now it's time to daven. Everybody have a good day.